do say hi to me. So it's 1 p.m. my time. I'm going to get started. My name is Harsh. I am the CEO and head of AI at Cliently. And what Cliently does is we help a lot of sales, marketing teams to give them the AI predictions so that they don't have to hire a team of data scientists. They don't have to hire engineers to get AI predictions. They get AI predictions at just one click. But I'm not here to sell the product. I'm just here to talk about customer lifetime value. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can share the screen if there's any problem. Okay, perfect. Everybody can see my screen. If not, please let me know. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about how you can calculate the lifetime value of your customers in very simple ways. Give me 1 minute. Okay, perfect. A little bit about me. I've got background in marketing, economics, computer science, data science. This is my LinkedIn. This is my email address. And please wait until the end of this webinar. So this is half an hour webinar where I'll be sharing the PowerPoint presentation. So customer lifetime value is a very future value mathematics. And CLV is nothing but the sum of returns that you're getting from your customer over his or her lifetime. So, and it is never the revenue from the customer that you're getting. It is always the margins or the profits that you're getting from your customer. And it starts from the time you acquire your customer until they are no longer your customer. So in general, the way I see it as this is, for example, if it's a customer who's paying every month to you, so you acquire the customer at the very initially, maybe you spend $200 in AdWords to get one customer. So that is your cost to it. So after the acquisition cost, you start making money from the customer, and at certain time, your customer churns. He or she stops subscribing to your product or services. So the whole journey is the CLV. There are a lot of business objectives that I can achieve using CLV. I can plan whom to upsell, whom to cross-sell. I can prioritize my resources. I can focus on the right people. I can understand from the best customers, the best CLV customers, and then I can try to go and acquire more such customers. CLV is nothing but I break it down into two terms. CHV, which is historical, how much the customer has made you margins historically. And the other component is the CFE, which is the future, how much you're going to make from your customer in the future. So let's say the customer joined in 2 years ago and he or she hasn't churned. So he's got a lot of future potential. So that is where the CFE comes into the picture. And it's again very forward-looking metric. Again, a very simple way to visualize would be customer comes in, there is profitability, and then there's a lot of unknown future where I do not know how the customer is going to be behaving. Are they going to be churning? When are they going to be churning? Is their margins going to go down? Is the margins going to go up? I have no idea. So I need to be doing a lot of predictive modeling, forecasting. I need to be then improving the metrics. I need to be optimizing them. And the questions are the three essential questions are: what is the value of my customer today? What am I going to get from my customers tomorrow? And how can I increase more money from the customer? How can I get more money from the customer? So an overview is I've divided I've divided customers into three types of CLV. The low CLV customer is very low on retention. There is very less likelihood of customer being retained, and as well as if you see the margins are the margins are very low. So for a low CLV customer, the worst type of customer, sorry to use that word, but We need to be improving the low CLV customers. And if they're too much in the negative profitability, or let's say if they're taking up too much of our resources, calling in all the time, we are not seeing any profitability from them, we need to eliminate them as a last resort. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but ultimately that's your business, right? You want to be moving up the profit. The high CLV customer is the best customer. You need to be acquiring more such customers. And then the other type of customer is your medium CLV customer, where you can always improve. So if it's a medium CLV customer here, you look at this one, the retention likelihood is high, but the margins are very low. So maybe I need to upsell them to get more margin from them. If I look at this customer, the margin is high, but the retention is low. So maybe I need to cross-sell them to improve them. Just a very small example how important a CLV is for the business. There are 5,000 customers, $100 is the average margin per year per customer, 10% churn, total 500 customers I'm losing every year. There are 50, so out of the 500 customers, there are 50 customers which are very high margin. So I get an average of $300 from them, and I lost them. So the loss is $15,000. That's a big amount for my business. Okay, so we talked about CLV, and so CLV is nothing but your historic value from the customer and the future value customer, and the future value from your customer. So so I know the historic. I know what the customer has spent with me so far. I know how much the customer was acquired for, how much dollars I spent to acquire that customer. Just give me just 1 minute. Okay. So I need to be making sure that what is CFE, because CFE is the futuristic calculation. So CFE, there are many formulas for customer future value. I can do using survival analysis. That's my all-time favorite, but that's require some calculation, and I'll be covering it in my next webinar. So the very simple version of customer future value is margin time multiplied by 1 minus C upon D plus C. Now, what is C? C is the probability of churn. M, or margin, is the net profit per customer per time period. So let's say if I'm looking at the margin of customer every year, so in that case, the margin would be yearly. D is the risk adjusted return on capital. In simple words, wherever I'm investing my money, the profits that I make in my business, and wherever I invest my money, and the return I get from there is the D. So let's say if I invest my money, I've invested my money in Capital One savings account. They give me some 0.9 or 1% return. So 1% is the D here. And there are two assumptions here. The assumption, to make it simple, the first assumption is that the margin is constant, which is never the case in real life. The margin is always going up and down per customer. And there is a constant churn. Again, churn is never constant. It continually changes. Why? Because sometimes customer is happy, so they last 5 years. But at the end of 5th year, maybe there are many options coming in for the customer. Now they don't like your product. So the probability of churn has changed. Changed. Now I'm going to jump onto the hands-on workshop. So that will be like a good 7 to 10 minute workshop where I'll be actually doing it on the platform. How do we calculate it? But before that, the best practice is always observe your customers over a long period of time. Now, most of the businesses usually survive on an annual basis. For example, you talk about, let's say, telecom companies. You talk about the telephone companies, which have a lot of contracts over 1 year, 2 year. So we need to be giving enough time for the customers to observe their data. We need to take the acquisition cost into the calculations. So many times I have seen companies not taking the acquisition cost into calculations. Somebody we acquired for free. That is a really good customer. Somebody we spend a lot of money on the AdWords. So we need to be taking acquisition cost into the calculations, as well as we need to capture trends and seasonalities in data. But I'll not go into a lot of complications. I'll keep it simple here. Okay, yes, I'm coming on to that one, Philip. So Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking at the data. So this is my CFV, CLV data. If you look at this data, it has some 40, 50 observations. And what I am really looking at is, by the way, how many customers are there? There are 3,613 customers. So what I'm looking at is the churn year. Remember, if I go back to the CLV calculation, I need to figure out CFE first. And for CFE, I need to have the margin and the churn probability. So this is the churn column where it says 1 means the person has churned, 0 means the person hasn't churned. Then there is how much the person has spent in last 36 months. And then there is average profit per year. So I'm looking at yearly calculations for this data set. And there's another interesting variable, purchase amount life. How much has the customer spent in his lifetime with us from the day he joined us until today? By the way, I don't have the acquisition cost for this. So I'm going to assume that the acquisition cost is 0 here, which is never the case in real life scenarios. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be uploading a data set, create a report. So I don't have the time to do the coding, necessary coding. I'm just going to be uploading the data set. Okay, perfect. So once I upload the data set, so at Cliently, we provide a solution to many marketing and sales teams where they don't have to write machine learning language code. What they have to do is they just have to tell us what they want to be predicting, and we'll take care of the predictions. We'll do everything in the back end, and we'll give the output to the user. So we run a lot of machine learning logic in the back end, and we show that all in the logs. But I just ran a report a few minutes ago. So I'm going to be using the same data set. I'm going to be clicking on this one. Okay, perfect. So I have the report now. The accuracy is good, 87% of the time we're predicting right the churn. But I do not care about all these things right now. All I care about is the churn probability. So I'm going to be using data connections. I'm going to be uploading a data set for scoring. So what essentially happens is we uploaded the data set and we asked the system to give us to build a machine learning model for predicting churn probability. And from here, I'll be getting the scoring module. And I'll get a probability for everybody if they're going to be churning or not, and what is the probability. Okay. So if you look at it, there were 3,600 people approximately. And here also I have 3,613 people. And now I have the predicted values, if they're going to be churning or not, and the class 0 and the class 1 probabilities. So I'm going to just do a control C, copy paste it. I actually did a few minutes ago. So I just pasted these values to the data set, and now I have everybody's predicted value, if they're going to be churning or not. I have the churn probability, which is class 1 probabilities. So now I'm coming to the calculations. So if you remember the formula, going back to the formula, margin times multiplied by 1 minus C upon D plus C. Here I'm assuming the D is 0. I don't know where to invest my money in the business. Let's say that. So I'm assuming D is 0. So I'm doing 1 minus C, which is 1 minus class 1 probability, which is the probability of churn. This is what I get. Then I'm doing 1 minus C upon C, which is this divided by this. I get the value. And then I'm repeating for all. By the way, for these people, I got the 0 probability. So a number divided by 0, Excel doesn't give anything. So I'll correct it later on, but it's fine for now. And then I'm looking at margin times multiplied by this number, 1 minus C upon C. So this is the value I get. So margin is the average profit per year. Again, remember, there is no acquisition cost because it's not in the data, but never it will happen in the real life. Okay, once I'm done with this, now I'm looking at the CFE, customer future value. So I've converted this into the dollars and I've terminated the decimals. So now I have the customer future value of every customer. Now for the customer lifetime value, remember customer future value plus how much this customer has spent historically with us. So in this case, the customer has spent $145, which I'm doing an addition, AE2, plus the customer future value, which is $0.4. So I get the value now. Now I have the CLV value of every customer. Now what I'll do is, I'll do a few things. First of all, I'll just give them a sort. I want to be looking at descending values. Okay. This shouldn't have come, but nevertheless, that's because we had zero probability for some people. So I'm just going to be copying, pasting from here. Okay, perfect. So I have the CLV for every customer and I've sorted them. So for example, this customer, he's going to be giving me $3 million in his lifetime. Now there was no possible way to know. I had this variable that he spent $222,000, but I had no possible way to know that this customer is going to be spending another $300 million in my business. I'm going to prioritize this customer. I'm just going to even hire a person just to manage this guy, right? So beautiful. Look at this customer. She just spent $38,000. I had no idea in the world that this customer is going to be giving me $1.5 million, huge number. So that is why CLV is very important. That is why CFE is very important calculations. And now there's another thing that I want to be looking at, and this is something getting interesting. So I'm looking at the churn. I'm looking at the churn of the people. Okay. So over here, we are indicating 0 means the people have not churned. 1 means people have churned. So I want to be looking at people who've already churned. Okay. So let me look at the people who've already churned. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be copying, pasting their value into another sheet. And what I'm curious to know is, and I'll do something, and I've done this for some of the companies, and it's really immensely beneficial. So these customers have churned, okay, but they still have a future value left. So I want to be do a sorting on the future value. Okay. Now look at these customers. Just take, let's say my product cost, $500 to make. So I'm just looking at these 5 customers. I'm not looking at every one of them. They've churned. I don't care. But I'm just looking at these customers. My product costs $400. There is so much money left on the table. $33,000. This guy churned already, but I can still extract $33,000 from him. I could have gotten extra $33,000 from them. I did not. That is a failure on my marketing and sales part. They had a lot of potential. This guy, $15,000. Now, even if I just take these 13 guys and if I do a roughly sum, I'll easily get approximately $100,000 just from some 12, 15 guys. Now, what I can do, these guys have already churned. Now, I'm going to go back at them. I'm going to go back at my CRM. Not right now, not in this webinar. But if I were if I had this data set and if I was a company taking action on this one, I would be going back to the CRM. I would be studying the notes. I would be understanding why they have churned, and I would be trying to make a contact back at them. Hey, John, I understand our customer service was not up to the mark. Let me give you 20%, 10% discount so that I can bring you on board. Maybe we can also try to understand, maybe we were not prioritizing them. So we can talk to them like, look, we are going to assign you an account executive who's just going to be looking at your profile, your account. So even if I just target these top 12, 13 customers, and maybe if I can get some of them, I can easily make $50,000, $60,000 from it. And this is all possible just by doing customer future value. Otherwise, imagine, never would have been possible. Okay. So now I'm back to my the hands-on workshop is I don't want to be diving into more details because I have a little more content to cover. So I'll get back to the presentation. How do you strategize? I talked about the people whom you could be contacting who have a lot of future potential and who've churned. That was one good strategy. The other strategy was to focus on the people who are giving $4 million, $5 million in future, and they're very high potential. So we need to be focusing on them. What are the other ways? The broad strategies. So you would divide your customers into four categories. Again, remember the low CLV customers, the high CLV customer, the mid CLV, the mid CLV. Now look at these people, the people in the red. They're low on retention. They have a high probability of churning, and they're low on the margin as well. So I want to be not just retaining them, but I also want to be upselling them so that I can increase their margins. Right now, it's very minimal. I hate to see minimal margins. These customers, they're good on retention, so I know I don't need to worry about retention. I need to be worrying about upselling them. These customers are high on the margin, so I don't need to be worrying about upselling them. Neither do I need to worry about retaining them. In fact, I need to be cross-selling them. If they're buying an iPhone and I know they're going to be sticking with my company, I'm going to sell them the earpods. I'm going to sell them a MacBook. I'm just going to introduce a lot of brands because I know they're going to be retaining with my company and they're high on margins. These customers, you would want to retain them. That's important, and cross-sell them. I talked about it, convert lost opportunities into dollars. Okay, how do you increase the customer value? Where and how? So I don't want to be going into every point since I'll be sharing the PPT with you. And this is a lot to think about it. Okay. So with the customer value, you could do so many things. You could do the cost controls. You could know if your reps are doing a good job, if your marketing people are doing a good job. You could understand where is the efficiency in your systems, where are your systems not efficient, why are you losing your customers. You could do the target marketing. You could be more focused on getting the right kind of people. You could do segmentation. There's just so many doors, possibilities open up when you start doing customer lifetime value, customer future value. Another thing is you want to be improving the status quo. You don't want to be fixed at certain things. So if my business is currently doing okay, so we are a shop, we are going to be retaining the existing customers. That is a very old-fashioned way of thinking. You need to be thinking much more than that. If you're going to be competing with so many businesses who are using machine learning, you want to be retaining the right customer and not just every customer. And you need to find out which customers are going to be profitable in future. Retain them. Those are your gold mines. The old thinking is acquire new customers. No, hell no. You want to be understanding where and how you're getting your best customers, and you want to double down on those channels. So let's say the customers that I'm acquiring from my email marketing cost me a lot of money. They're not good. They cause a lot of churn. Whereas the customers which I get from organic marketing, they are more profitable. For example, every webinar I have some businesses contacting me that they want to discuss about a product, and some of them have stayed with us for very long. So let's say if I come to a conclusion that the customer from the webinars are very good, very efficient, very profitable customers, I'm going to double down on the webinar. So you only acquire the profitable customers and not just every customer. That strategy. Ensure profitable campaigns, sell profitable stuff. Do not be in losses. That's a bad way of thinking. Improve the customer experience. Okay, you should do it, but that's a very generic thing. Versus strike the right balance between customer satisfaction and cost control. If Mr. Martinez is calling me all the time, is taking up all my resources, it's better to cut him off because there's a balance. I have to maintain balance. There's cost going as well, right? If I provide customer satisfaction to everybody. So those are some of the ways how you need to be thinking. not just a traditional way, but more like modern way of thinking. Now, the other things are don't view CLV as a static number. You get a CLV, for example, remember $80,000, $30,000. It's not just a static number, it's always changing. If you're not providing good services to your customer, the next year, the probability of churn goes up, the margins go down, and the CLV number changes. So it's not a static number, it's changing all the time. So please ensure that it's increasing and it's not decreasing. Actively increase your CLV numbers. Perhaps another way, I've consulted so many businesses, and the businesses say, "Oh, the customers are bad, the market is down, etc., etc." But perhaps low CLV is your fault. And think of it: maybe you're not providing good service, maybe your customer care is poor, maybe you take too much time to resolve disputes, maybe your product is buggy. So that's another way of thinking. Is CLV my fault? And if it is my fault, what can I do? Because remember, I always want to be increasing the CLV numbers. I never want to see them going down as an executive. That's a doom for my business if they're going down. Poor customers leading to churn. I don't mean poor financially, but the customers who are causing you losses, who are taking up your resources, they ultimately lead to a lot more churn for the others as well. Let's say you have customers who are complaining always, they're putting out bad reviews everywhere. So your numbers are going to go down elsewhere as well. Long-term strategies, what you can be doing. Customer is an investment. That's how I see them. And you need to nurture them. The way I do at Cliently, and even Spencer, the CEO, we think they are an investment and we need to nurture them. We need to educate them. We need to teach them. We need to show them the value of machine learning, AI predictions, and then we start getting return on them. So think of it as that way as well. It's an investment. You need to be making a long-term and a short-term investment. Don't chase revenue. Don't go for the revenue. Go for the profitability. Don't try to retain everyone. That's a really bad policy, really bad strategy. Similarly, don't acquire everybody and don't upsell or cross-sell everyone. Again, so I was talking to this business. It's 1,000 employees company, and what they do is the moment somebody lands into their door, the moment somebody buys a product or services, immediately a month from now they give their sales reps, their BDRs a quota that you have to do certain number of upsell cross-sells, and then those SDR and BDRs are upselling cross-selling everybody. Now imagine. I'm a very miser customer. I just bought an iPhone. I don't want to. I never wanted to spend $750 on an iPhone, $1,000 on an iPhone, but somehow I made up my mind. I bought an iPhone. I'm miser. Okay, remember. Now suddenly the next email comes to me after a few days is from Apple is, "Hey Harsh, buy the AirPods." After 30 days from now, buy the MacBook. Hell no, I'm going to lose interest in Apple, and I'm going to be thinking that they're unnecessarily going after me when I'm not interested. So again, that's an interesting topic, and we have that webinar 2 weeks from now. That you should not be upselling and cross-selling to everybody. You should be doing a lot of analysis, machine learning, to understand that these customers are going to be interested in upsell or a cross-sell, and not upsell or cross-sell everyone. Usually what we've seen, we work with 150 plus businesses. What we've seen is that almost 91% of the time, the customers are not interested in doing upsell, cross-sell. They're happy with your product or services. So why pitch them? Why not, think them as an investment, and then later we shall seek to get returns. So with that, guys, let me share the PowerPoint presentation with you, and I'll open up this for Q&A, your thoughts, your comment. I know some of us are busy, so if you want to get busy with your work, that's fine. So this is the link of the presentation. Yes, Samuel, I'll be sharing the recording of the video as well. Give me half an hour, give me 1 hour. I'll be sharing that with everybody. And if anybody wants to discuss anything more about customer lifetime value, anything customer future value. At Cliently, we have a tool for sales and marketing teams where we provide you AI predictions just at the sync of your data. So all that you saw, uploading the data set, getting the output, you don't have to do it anymore. You just get it automatically. Just add upload of data set, real time values. Okay, just going to be taking up questions. So Philip has a question. Can you please talk about how do you determine probability of churn accurately? Philip, great question. So what I did was, if I were to write a code, by the way, the platform that I'm using, Proton AutoML, was acquired by Cliently. And what happens is it's running the data cleaning, the feature engineering, the machine learning code, and it's giving you an output. So how do you check the accuracy of churn? Remember, I saw the weighted F1 of 87%, which is pretty good. And I had an accuracy of 87% on the test data set. So at the very top, 80% trained data set, 20% test data set. I built the machine learning model, did machine learning on training data set. And then I checked it, the accuracy on the test data set. That was the 20% data set. So 87% was pretty good. And then I got the probabilities accordingly. So 87% accuracy means 13% of the times I'm getting predictions wrong. But more importantly, in this case, I'm looking at the probability and not just if the person churned or not. So that's how it was. Thank you, Shashank, for the nice words. Samuel, I'm going to be sharing this recording on the email. So I have your emails from this webinar. I'll be sharing the recording with you in 1 hour, 1.5 hours when it gets uploaded. Okay, thank you, Samuel. Philip also asked. Thank you. Would you recommend applying survival analysis in both? Okay, Jose, a great question. So Jose is asking, can we recommend survival analysis in both customer churn modeling and CLTV? So using survival analysis, you can get survival hazard function. You can also get the probability of churn just from using survival analysis. And you can use model like PySurvival. There's just tons of models. And we also have a few in Cliently. So you can get the survival probability hazard function, the mean residual lifetime, but those won't be as accurate as doing it on machine learning, the customer churn modeling, okay? So our recommendation is you do customer churn modeling, just the usual machine learning way. For the CLTV, it depends on the problem that you have. Let's say if your churn is changing all the time, let's say there is too much variation in your churn, and let's say the margins of your customer are also showing a lot of variation, then we recommend doing survival analysis. And the way there are some changes in the calculation of customer future value in that case. So customer future value becomes essentially the margin times multiplied by the expected remaining lifetime of the customer. Now what I want to be doing is, or actually you can also be doing is, you get the mean residual lifetime from the survival. So by the way, before that I jump onto that one. So you do survival analysis and you get something like mean residual lifetime. So mean residual lifetime is telling you that how much life of a customer is left before they churn, not the point they die, but before they churn. So for example, you get 25 years for some people, you get 15 years for some people, etc., etc. Now you can use those calculations in the customer future value, as in customer future value is equal to the margin, the average margin multiplied by the remaining lifetime. So if let's say the margin is $50, the lifetime left is $10. Give me 1 minute. So then it becomes $500. So my customer is going to be giving me $500 because that's how I calculated the mean residual lifetime. So in short, yes, if the variation is too much in the churn modeling, we assume that the churn is constant. But if the churn is changing, the probabilities are changing every year, then we recommend survival analysis, and then we use it in the CFE and the CLTV calculations. By the way, I have worked with a lot of businesses, and I have seen the survival analysis calculations are better in calculating CFE, because it not just takes the churn into account, but it also takes the residual lifetime into account. But whenever you do such study, more or less, you'll see numbers are close to each other, whether you do through churn modeling or whether you do through survival analysis. You see the numbers are coming closer to each other. And more or less, it's not just a number. It's rather about the sorting thing. So I want to be sorting the customers by the future value. So let's say by the churn modeling calculation, you get 1 million for number one customer, and with the survival analysis, you get $80,000. Now that doesn't mean really anything, right? I'm just doing a sorting, and I'm then prioritizing my resources on the customers. So the top 25% people, I put the best people on them. I put the most senior people on them. The most bottom 25%, I try to see if they're negative or positive in the profitability. So it's more about the sorting them, dividing them into segments, and not just going by the sheer numbers. So if the calculation is telling you that you're going to get $3 million from that customer in their lifetime, now that doesn't mean you'll exactly get $3 million. It means you'll get a number close to that, and you should be focusing more on those people which are higher on the numbers. How large data set? So Emmanuel has a question. How large of data set do you think you need to flesh out a meaningful set of predictive analytics? Good question, Emmanuel. That depends. So if I have let's say 100 rows, I would at least need 100 columns. Sorry, 100 columns I have, 100 features, 100 variables I have. I would at least be needing 2000 rows of data set to get something meaningful. Let's say if I have 800 variables, then I would be needing 5000, 6000 rows. So it goes in proportion. The number of columns that you have, it pretty much goes in proportion with the number of rows you have. For example, if I have 5 variables, then I'm good with 100 rows as well. But of course, more the data, the better it is. So let's say if you have your data set sitting in Salesforce, if you have your data sitting in Pipedrive, if you have sitting it in HubSpot, Cisco, like wherever it sits, you combine it together, you create more information, you get better machine learning predictions. That's always the case. But that doesn't mean if you have a small data, you cannot get started with. Of course, it's just that you'll have a little bad accuracy, but not always. You may have good accuracies. Now imagine I did churn modeling, and one of the most important variable in the calculations was. Let me actually share screen with everyone. Because that will answer your question. So, okay, if you can share my screen. So remember, this data set had 50, 60 variables. I don't remember. And when I did the feature importance chart, which was which variables are important. So the month since last transaction, scheduled purchase flag, these are important variables. Now there are 25, 30 other variables which it doesn't show as to be important. So even with this data set, I have these 10 variables, or even if I've got like these top 5 variables, I'm fine, like I'm good. I don't need another 800 variables to get accuracy, because if the variables are right, if the variables are good in separating the classes, or in simple word, if the variables, if the information is good enough in segregating, these are the churners, these are the non-churners, then I don't need more variables. I'm fine, I'm good. And I can add more rows as well to the data set, more customer as well. But at some time, it reaches a point of no diminishing returns. Like maybe I'll add another 1000, 2000 people, my accuracy will go up by 90%, 91%. But then at some time, it will just stay at 91, it won't go up. So there's no one answer for it. Okay. Thanks. So guys, do let me know how currently you are doing CLTV calculations in your company, if you're doing so, or if you're planning to do it in the future. Let me know in the chats. I'd be happy to know about it. I'm always curious what other companies are doing. And if you think that you want to be doing this in your company and you can do it on your own, great. I mean, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always there. And if you think you need some assistance, you need some help in setting up some infrastructure, you need some consultation, or probably you need our app tool to give you the predictions right at the click of a data, sorry, at the upload of a data set, so you don't have to do all that labor work. I'm happy to discuss about the product as well. I'm on the LinkedIn, Harsh Gupta, my name, very simple name. You'll find me. Nothing complicated. So with that, guys, like if you have any questions, comments, please share it. Otherwise, we'll call it wraps in next 4 or 5 minutes. Thank you, Philip. So seems like there's nothing. Okay, perfect. So I hope I was so clear that every one of us is going to a board meeting tomorrow in the company, is going to slam on the door or on the table. I'm going to talk about customer lifetime value. That's what I hope for. And if your company approves that project, do tag me on LinkedIn. Do say me thank you. Uh, that's what I want to see, the real impact of our webinars. And guys, we have webinars every week. So next week we are doing that, how do you improve your marketing campaign response? If I'm correct, if I remember correctly, we are doing this webinar next week where we'll be seeing what all you can do to improve the marketing campaign responses, revenue from those campaigns. So please follow our page on LinkedIn, cliently.com. It's on LinkedIn. If you follow them, you'll be notified of events. So okay. So we have one last question, comment coming in. I'll take up that one. And also, guys, do look out for my email. I'll be shortly sending out an email. I'll be sharing the recording of the webinar, and that's it. Many thanks. Thank you, Samuel, for coming on the webinar, attending the webinar. Please come to the next webinar as well. 1 p.m. my time. If you're in other time zones, do have a look, but it's always Thursdays. And yeah, every week, if you follow our page, Cliently, cliently.com, you'll find it on LinkedIn. With that, guys, thank you so much. Great day.